Hello and welcome back. Fishies are doing good. These guys have eggs going. Not really taking a good look at them yet, but you know what? We're probably around the 24-hour mark. I'm getting close to it. And they look okay. Only getting a side view here, but they're pretty dark. Let's go around the other side and have a peek at them. So, yeah. Do I expect them to live? I've given up on expecting anything to live before my fish are older than 15 months, because 15 months is supposed to be basically 15 months is how long their skeletal structures grow. So I don't want to put them in a little tank. I want my fish big. A full-sized female will produce a bigger clutch of eggs because it has more surface area on its body to feed the resulting babies. So, you know, if you got half-grown fish, you're not going to produce quality babies or as many babies or as many quality babies, because you'll have a smaller clutch and a percentage of them are going to be no good. So I'd rather grow them, take my time and not rush it. I think that's the best thing to do. If they succeed in the tank, great. But they're not sitting in a small tank with a smaller water volume, slowing down their growth process. So, and of course the water will stay a lot cleaner with all the equipment I've got going here, because this tank's dialed in. This water we're looking at right now, I think we're in the 4th or 5th day. I stopped counting. It looks great. My bubbles some of them are starting to last. So it's getting there. But I can, based on the fish behavior, I can wait till tomorrow. And I've got eggs right now, so I'm not in an entire rush. I might even be able to wait a little bit longer. This guy over here, he's just been riled up for days. He wants Big Bertha to come over here so bad and lay eggs, and he keeps trying to coax her over, and she's just not interested. She doesn't want to lay right now. She's been flirting with him, but she's playing hard to get. And doesn't really matter, because once she lays her eggs, she'll eat them. She always eats them. So she doesn't really protect them. One time she was protecting them for a little while, but it's kind of like what Big Red did. They just got bored and ate them. But snakeskin female, she's a good mama. She's a good mama. And we've definitely got to get her going. I think she has what it takes. And I think she's sort of training her male to be the same. And he's right there. But you can't knock the clarity. For Discus tank, this water's getting old. And it looks great. You'll notice I made a little video earlier about a topic I've been hitting home for a while. It's probably getting old in a way for some, but at the same time, my analytics, a lot of my videos are newly visited by new arrivals, and so I don't mind bringing it up, because the more the people hear it, the more they're gonna stop and take pause and maybe reassess some of the crap they've been hearing over the last several years when it comes to filtration and what works and what doesn't, how to best manage your biocycle, and whether or not you should put mud and lake critters in your tank or not, and so on and so on. There's so much dogma and crap floating around that people have jumped onto, like it's almost like cult-like behavior. It's really weird, this influencer world we live in. People are easily influenced, and the driving force behind what's being influenced a lot of times is just money, and companies that need to make that money. It's just the way it's been, And this social media influencing stuff, when it comes to fish tube, it's dominated by paid for opinions, and the UV movement, or the anti-UV movement, I should say, is very apparent if you're paying attention, because one, they all say the same shit. Now, I don't know if it's because everybody Googled the same damn website and just started reading it while they made their videos. I mean, that's possible. But there's the power of Google for you to influence everyone's decision making. And they'll tell you a unit like this doesn't work. Hands up and down, they'll be like, oh, that doesn't do anything for you, and it's not going to stop. All nonsense. This little 9-watt UV unit works as good, like $20 US probably, works as good as the $500 US big units do. The bulbs cost a few dollars to replace, and they're so cheap, you get to run them 24/7. You go buy the big expensive unit that they recommend you buy, okay? And first of all, these bulbs will last a long time, so running them 24/7 is great, because the fast flow keeps their temperature down, and they don't burn out from overheating. The expensive units get hot. The water that flows over them, actually warms up. So if you already have a heat issue, you might have more of a heat issue if you live in an environment like that. Of course, that wouldn't bother me. I live in a cold environment. But if I lived in Texas, the expensive one might be a bad idea. And so on. But anyway, the way they rate these little units, these little units are good for 80 gallons. Processing 80 gallons of water perfectly on their own. So if you got a tank that's bigger than 80 gallons, you don't need to buy more than one if you have a low population or you're using small fish or things like that. But I bought two. So I have 160 gallons, and I have redundancy, because redundancy and filtration go hand in hand. You should always, whatever you're doing for your filtration, there should be a, what if that particular filter clogs, like this one in the corner? What if my light burns out? Well, that's okay. The odds of 2 of my lights burning out and me not noticing are slim to none. But one might burn out for a few days and I might not notice, just because I was busy. And in that few days, it's not doing its job. So your clarity and your water quality could be affected. So when, always use redundancy. Instead of buying one big Pelican filter, which I did downstairs, I put two of them. And because I did that, I was even able to split them up and put one on this side of the tank and one on that side of the tank, and then I can point them in different directions to, increase flow and create sort of like a circular whirlwind in the tank, keep everything moving on the bottom, and pick up all the detritus. But if you went with standard everyday advice for filtration, and you were someone new trying to set up a tank like this, and you walked into a pet shop, or you watched a lot of videos, you're going to hear buy an FX6 canister filter, or an FX4 if you couldn't afford one, an FX6. They're very expensive, at least up here in Canada. They're retarded expensive, and because everything's. When I say that, you think of your south of the border price, and then you think of what would that cost a guy in Alaska, right? And that's it's kind of what happens to us. It's not quite as bad as the Alaskans, but we're not much better off. And nowadays, they might be better off than us on some prices, especially food prices. Our food prices have gotten insane. Theirs was always insane, but ours is so insane right now that they, as Americans, being supplied through a different market, are likely getting a better price on food than we are right now. But yeah. So redundancy and lots of filtration, because you could lose one or more of your units. So, and then I also have a sump running. It's about 30 gallons. And just packed with biomedia. And I believe this sump runs at 230 gallons per hour. I don't know why, but the sumps are always like 230, 430, 830. I guess that's the way they do it. So, but they'll talk you into canister filters. They'll tell you not to use these. They'll frown on these, and then they'll say don't use them. Or if someone takes a chance and they go for it, they halfway go for it because they still believe these are garbage. And they get talked into going for a high watt bulb. So you can get like an internal green machine. It's got, I should say, it claims to have a 25 watt bulb. I guess it probably is a 25 watt bulb, but does a 25 watt bulb actually perform better than a 9 watt bulb? I don't think it matters. I think that's just more bullshit. And when you got to replace a 25 watt bulb, it's going to cost you $80 minimum, maybe more. And in Canadian dollars, my bulb in overpriced Canadian dollars is only $8-9. Americans are probably paying $2-3 a bulb, and that's the way you want things. You don't want a bulb that's going to die, and then you got to dish out $80. And if you buy the expensive units, hundreds of dollars to replace your bulbs. So the individuals that get into these higher watt systems are worried about how much time they run their bulbs, because the replacement cost scares the shit out of them. And then you'll hear, all the same people that gave you all the advice to install this really expensive UV system or nothing at all, which really doesn't make any sense. But yeah, you install, and then they'll tell you, oh, it's okay. You just put it on a timer, and you run it for 2 to 4 hours a day. And that way you preserve your bulb, and your bulb will last you much longer, maybe a year, and then you'll buy a new bulb that costs hundreds of dollars again. With these units, so why is that an epic fail? Why is that an epic fail? Well, first of all, okay, you turn it on for 2 or 4 hours, and you're running a slow flow system, and you're putting a big unit on a 400-gallon tank. So if this is considered a fast flow unit, and it pumps out like 280 gallons an hour, okay, how many gallons an hour is a slow flow unit going to? Obviously a lot freaking less, because the water has to move slowly over the bulb. So how much of your 400-gallon tank or your 200-gallon tank, for example, is actually passing over that bulb in that short allotted time that you've got your timer set to in order to preserve your bulb? So as you can see, and I take a big breath, you can just start to, the dogma unfolds into just epic fail, and you've spent money on something that you're really not even using properly. You are better off with the 9-watt bulb than you are with even the 25-watt bulb, simply because of the cost. And here is why. They design these things in a way. Is that maybe my gestures are doing something to my camera? That's weird. They design these things in a way that when the water comes through and passes over the bulb, it brings the water right up tight to the bulb. And bulbs throw lumens, and they cast their light with extreme intensity only like a small distance off the bulb. A lot of times it's a quarter inch, to an inch. So what they do is they pass the water over a skinny little space over that bulb, so that the light is penetrating it in that zone. You get a 25-watt bulb, it could increase the width of that gap, okay, but it's not going to like double it. It's not going to go 9 to 25 watt and double it. It's actually only going to increase the gap by a couple millimeters, which doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. So the only difference a higher watt bulb will make is the distance that the useful UV, the effective, powerful UV rays cast off the edge of the bulb. That's the only thing that changes when you increase wattage, okay? UV light is still UV light, and the UV light in these units actually destroys the plastic housing that's on the complete far side of where the water comes in. There's a plastic shield, and you gotta wipe that off, and you get residue, right? And that's going to happen inside a PVC pipe. It even happens to the quartz crystal tubes that protect the glass, because UV destroys everything. Everything. I don't care what it is. The flag on the moon isn't the flag on the moon anymore. It's probably bleached white because the UV destroyed the color in it too. The materials might not even be intact because the UV up there destroyed it. And the same thing's happening inside every UV unit. So you might hear people even take issue with the fact that the plastic disintegrates in this, and then they pretend that their other one, no, it doesn't happen. It's all bullshit. UV disintegrates everything. It will deteriorate everything, and it will destroy the housings over a long period of time of any unit. So you will have to replace them, and then that's another reason why a cheaper unit is better for you. Okay, so and why do I keep talking about it? Because people don't understand the basics. Why do I know this stuff about bulbs and how far a bulb will throw and how far you got to go to even get like just a couple of feet off a bulb, okay? Because I used to grow marijuana, like fields of it indoors, and I know all about bulbs from that, okay? And I was young. It was a very long time ago. And you would need like 1,000 and 2,000 watt bulbs relatively close to your plants in order to get an effective grow. Otherwise, if they were too far away, they weren't any better than a standard light bulb in your room, really, because the diminishing return on the effective light that's being thrown from the edge of the bulb as you move it away, it exponentially increases and very quickly, and the light becomes ineffective. So also age affects how far that light is thrown off the bulb. So when your bulbs get old, like in this case, these bulbs seem to be lasting 2 months. More than that, effectiveness drops. So you spend $3 on a bulb every 2 months. If the unit deteriorates, it'll probably take about 3 years for that to happen. You buy a new one for $30, and again, you're not afraid of your $200-300 UV bulb burning out. So you happily run the things 24/7, and because you run them 24/7, and this is the next point I'm going to make. That's just blows these slow flow systems out of the water. When you run them 24/7, you get consistency for your biocycle, and that's very important. That's why these are superior, because you can afford to run them consistently, nonstop, and because you're running them consistently, the beneficial bacteria in your tank will be stable like never before. Now, when you're running a slow flow system for 2 to 4 hours and you're partially cleaning the bacteria out of your water column, and this point's very important, okay? Free-floating bacteria in your water column, okay, reproduces very quickly. It has a life cycle that can literally, in many cases, because there's probably several different types of it at one time, several different species floating around. Some of them are green, some of them are white, but their life cycle for the free-floating bacteria is really quick. It can be measured in minutes in most cases, okay? So that means, they reproduce and replace themselves in minutes. They also die quickly. So they're dying off and they're rotting. And that's not good either if you've got it happening in mass. And so anyway, free floating bacteria, fast life cycle, fast reproduction cycle. The beneficial bacteria we want has a slow life cycle and a slow reproduction cycle, and it takes 3 days for beneficial bacteria to reproduce and replace itself. Minutes to 3 days. Now you got 2 different families of bacteria. One of them you want, one of them you don't. And the one you don't want is physically capable of outnumbering the one you want. The free-floating horrible bacteria will easily outcompete and depopulate your beneficial bacteria. So, and that stuff can replace itself in minutes. So you run your slow flow $1,000 UV unit for 2 to 4 hours in your, big tank, and maybe it's enough time to cycle your water through it once. Okay, so I don't think one time is going to kill everything anyway, to begin with. And number 2, it's definitely going to knock down the population, so you'll see a clarity improvement if you are having a problem. It may even maintain clarity to a degree. But if you had free-floating bacteria and you're operating that way, and you are running your EV once every 24 hours, there's there's just tons of time for it to repopulate itself before your light turns back on. You might not see it happening. It might be such a mild milkiness that you don't care. Just a little bit of it in there, you know. You don't see it with your eyes, but you might see it when you put a camera on it. And you're like, oh, that's okay. But really, it's not. It's not, because that shit is still in your column, and it is still limiting the population of your beneficial bacteria. And that means you're more vulnerable to a crash, and you're more vulnerable to dead fish coming out of nowhere, period. That's all there is to it. So running such a thing once a day for a few hours is harmful. It's not helpful. It's making your water look a little better, but it's not helping your beneficial bacteria win the war. Your beneficial bacteria is still being stressed out, and it's still competing. You're just not noticing it. When you notice it, when it's apparent, beneficial bacteria has already lost the war. So if you run 24/7, and like I'm running close to 500 gallons an hour over that limited space, over the bulb, that's definitely falling in range of the effective range of the bulb, even though it's 9 watts. I'm constantly running molecules of water over 2 bulbs, which is a lot more surface area than 1 bulb. And those bulbs just happen to be 9 watts, so who cares? So if you distance over bulb, if I joined both bulbs together and I made one big long bulb, that's actually about the size of a big unit. So what happens in this case here is 24/7 function is constantly killing the bacteria I don't want in my column, and I'm maximizing, for sure, the population of my beneficial bacteria. So, yes, you can also make clear water with chemicals. You can use chemicals to kill off your free-floating bacteria, but never rely on chemicals. Chemicals, like, these are fish. Do you want to swim in Windex? You know what I mean? Like, might look great, but you're still swimming in Windex. Now, the only thing I like putting in my tank's prime. I will medicate because parasites are parasites, but I don't see them very often. Yeah, almost never. And a lot of times when I'm just medicating, I'm doing it in food, and it's precautionary. It's like paranoia. It's not because I need to. It's just because I want to make sure. So I don't use the UV because I want to control parasites. A lot of people think that's what it's for. No, I use UV to maximize my water quality and stabilize my cycle and ensure that my cycle doesn't compete with anything floating in my water column. And that's how you keep a clean tank. All of those things that I worry about probably don't matter if you just want to keep guppies. But if you want to keep, more advanced fish, cichlids and up, you want to be thinking about keeping your water column free of any other life form but your fish, so that your beneficial bacteria is the boss and is living the best possible life it can, maximizing its population and giving you effective, stable water. Some people make videos about how to achieve water clarity. And I guess that's what I'm going to name this one. I'm going to name this one exactly the way they name theirs. Because that's everything I just said, I believe. Doesn't mean my beliefs are true. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'd love to hear it, because I like to learn. I love to learn. And based on everything I've been teaching myself over the course of my life, in the last year in particular, I believe the information I just communicated to you is A, not paid for by anyone. B, the only thing I want you to do is have healthy fish. I have no narrative. I'm simply trying to counter a harmful narrative that I think people get locked into, and it doesn't only harm the fish; it harms the individual because they don't enjoy their hobby. They don't enjoy their hobby because their fish keep getting sick, and they've been misled. They've been misled. They've been given. They think they're doing the right thing. They're doing their best as a fish keeper, and they're failing on shitty advice. So, and I'll continue to make videos when I see things that stand out like this to me. But I'm not gonna keep going on the UV thing. I might make a reminder in a few months. I'm gonna leave it alone for now after this one, because I think I've driven the point home. I've made my argument, and if someone has a counter argument and you'd like to debate it with me, I'm all for that. Hey, we can even set up a live stream. You know what I mean? I would totally discuss it, because if you've got something you can teach me that counters everything I just said and makes it all fucking worthless information, I would love to hear it. I would love to hear it. It's like, change my mind, please, because if I'm steering myself astray, I would love to know. I really would, and that's why I'm making this video, because I want other people to weigh what you're listening to on YouTube. If the guy or girl or channel is got bottles of chemicals everywhere, they point their camera and it's put some of this in your tank for this problem and that problem, and then they're knocking UV, just walk away. Okay, their advice when it comes to UV is absolutely worthless, because their opinion is paid for and dictated to them, and they're not going to tell you the truth. Me, I have none of that. My opinions are based on results and research and personal life experience. So I will never claim to be a professional in doing this, in doing fish keeping. I'm never going to do that, because honestly, I think few people in this world can truly make that claim. And I think a lot of people make that claim, and they don't deserve to. And I'm certainly one of those people who do not deserve to pretend I'm a professional at this in any way, shape, or form. But I will share my opinion, and I'm not the kind of guy that shares an opinion like this unless I'm fairly certain about it. So, again, it doesn't mean you can't change my mind, because I am perfectly and keenly aware that despite my advanced age, I've always got something to learn, and I'm more than willing to learn something from a 7 or a 10-year-old. More than willing because if they've got something to teach me, and there's some pretty smart kids out there, don't kid yourself. They say something that I consider knowledge that I hadn't previously known. I'll thank that child and tell him how smart he is, or she is. So that's just how I roll. So, criticism is actually a beautiful thing if it's done constructively, and that's all I'm trying to do here. So if anybody feels insulted because your opinion on UV lights and UV filtration has been solidified on the other side of the fence, well, I'm not trying to pick wars with people. I'm just trying to offer an alternative perspective, food for thought. Because when you research the topic, you'll find yourself ideologically pushed into one of two places. You're either going to buy an expensive flow unit and run it 2 to 4 hours a day, okay? Or you're going to believe that these cheaper competing units are absolutely a waste of your time, and you're just not going to buy anything because you can't afford the expensive one, and you're going to try and do it the old-fashioned way, and you're going to fail to have an advantage that you could have for 20 or 30 bucks in your tank. A huge advantage. So keep that in mind. Definitely give it a shot. Everyone who's tried it has been pleasantly surprised. I've talked several fish keepers into this already, some with channels that would never have touched them because of the dogma, and after they did it, they did not take it out. The thing is still in whatever tank they put it in, and they recognize the benefit. They remember the before, and they enjoy the after, and so do their fish. So don't do it because I told you to do it, but don't not do it because they told you to do it. Make your own decision. Do things your own way. Sometimes you end up pleasantly surprised. That's what I did here. I just took a chance and it worked. And that's why I keep trying to tell you all. These things work. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching. And we'll catch you on the next one.